All right, let's dive into this explainer. Look, if you've ever wasted hours digging through scattered files, outdated wikis, and confusing spreadsheets, just trying to track down a single source of truth, you already know the massive headache of modern documentation. Today, we're looking at a really fascinating framework called cogNNitive, which is all about transforming that chaos into living knowledge. We're talking about taking all of your scattered resources and turning them into a unified, seamless system that both your human teams and your AI agents can actually understand, validate, and use together.
But to truly grasp why this matters, we kind of have to start with a very familiar frustration. We've all been there, right? You point your AI agent at your company wiki, ask it a seemingly simple question about an internal process, and then you just watch as it completely invents facts with absolute terrifying confidence. It's incredibly frustrating, and honestly, it completely undermines the promise of having AI in the workplace. We really need to understand exactly why this happens before we can even try to fix it. And this quote right here hits the nail on the head. Documentation is essentially a black box for AI. The fundamental problem is that our traditional documentation tools were built exclusively for human eyes. When we feed this exact same information to an AI, it is completely in the dark. It doesn't actually understand the layout. Instead, it's basically forced to guess what things mean based on the proximity of words, rather than grasping any actual structural truth. And as we know, guessing leads directly to hallucinations. So let's unpack this documentation black box, specifically looking at human eyes versus AI needs. Let's contrast exactly how humans and AI perceive our current knowledge bases. To you and me, a Notion page or an internal wiki is a beautifully organized layout. You see the headers, you see the bullet points, you notice the bold text, and your brain instantly understands the hierarchy. But to an AI agent, it's just a massive, unstructured wall of text. It lacks any real semantic structure. You see, AI needs deterministic parsing. Think of it as needing absolute, unbreakable mathematical rules to read a document, rather than just relying on how pretty the layout looks on a screen. And unfortunately, the pain extends way beyond just AI making things up. Because these tools rely on proprietary databases, your organization's knowledge gets trapped behind vendor walls, meaning you don't truly own your data. On top of that, your documentation inevitably rots because maintenance is highly manual and frankly tedious, so teams just stop trusting the docs. And when you finally do try to use AI, the workflows are completely ad hoc. Every single session has to start from scratch because knowledge tools currently operate in totally separate silos.
Which brings us to making knowledge AI native and what we call the baseline solution.
So the big question is figuring out how to build a baseline foundation that actually works for both human eyes and those rigid mathematical machine needs, all without relying on a proprietary database. The baseline solution cogNNitive proposes is refreshingly simple. It's just human-readable, plain Markdown files. But here is the secret sauce. They include structured YAML front matter. Think of that as a hidden, highly organized digital sticky note at the top of the file made specifically for computers to read. By using this combination, your files are completely portable and Git tracked, meaning you have zero vendor lock-in. Your knowledge is literally never trapped behind an expensive API or a rate limit again.
Let's move on to the power of MCP tools and how they completely eliminate LLM guesswork.
So how do we make this baseline truly readable for AI agents? Well, it all comes down to a highly specific, almost magical number: 7. Just 7. In a world where we're used to AI having infinite, open-ended ways to guess at what we mean, cogNNitive introduces a strict boundary of exactly 7 deterministic tools for the AI to use. This purposeful constraint is the ultimate superpower here. By limiting the AI to exactly 7 defined ways to interact with your data, you completely eliminate the space for it to invent things. Constraint is exactly what unlocks reliability. These constraint tools live inside the Info MCP server. This is a standardized bridge utilizing the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, which is essentially a universal translator for AI. It exposes those 7 specific tools so AI agents can query your knowledge base directly without needing to understand the underlying file syntax or how the markdown is structured. The MCP server wraps the core parser and validator, acting as that perfect, error-free translator.
I really can't stress the value of these 7 tools enough because it's a massive paradigm shift. Because these 7 tools are engine-backed rather than LLM guessed, you completely cut out the AI's imagination when it reads your docs. The deterministic parser dictates the structure, not a prompt. This means you get guaranteed 100% correct results every single time, simply because the AI is just calling reliable functions to retrieve knowledge. It fundamentally transforms the AI from a creative, unpredictable guesser into a precise, flawless data retrieval engine.
Now that we have that perfect 7-tool bridge in place, let's look at the wider cognitive ecosystem and how it connects knowledge to action. The absolute genius here is the clean separation of concerns. Think of it like separating the brain from the hands. What the agent knows, the brain, is handled by the NNFO core engine and its precise models. And how the agent acts, the hands, is handled entirely separately by action on skills. By splitting knowledge from action, everything remains incredibly composable and modular for your engineering teams. This separation of powers action, which is a curated collection of over 11 modular version skills defined in simple skl.md files. Think of these as pre-built instruction modules that teach your AI agents exactly how to perform specific tasks. You install a skill once, and you can use it across any project, anywhere. Imagine never having to write a fragile 5-page prompt again just to teach a bot a basic domain workflow. So how does cogNNitive actually stack up? Let's break down the status quo.
When you see how this engine-backed approach truly compares to the tools you're probably using every day, the gap in the market is striking. If you look at Notion or Confluence, you've got massive vendor lock-in and proprietary databases. Look at Obsidian, and sure, you have local files, but absolutely no schema enforcement or validation engine. And plain Markdown, it has no structural markers at all, meaning every team invents their own conventions that an AI simply cannot parse reliably. Only cogNNitive brings all three critical pieces to the table. Zero vendor lock-in via Git-tracked files, strict schema enforcement so docs never drift, and of course, those crucial 7 native MCP protocol tools we talked about.
Next up, bootstrapping your AI agent with the one-command architecture. So, if you're ready to fix documentation rot and unlock this open standard, getting started is astonishingly simple. You literally just give one command to your OpenCode desktop agent. From there, it's pure automation. Step 1. The agent bootstraps itself by fetching a gateway manifest and parsing the YAML. Step 2, it automatically hunts down and installs the required validated skills from Actionin. And step 3, it instantly presents a menu of workflows to you, ready to execute. You go from zero to a fully wired domain expert AI agent in a matter of seconds. I'll leave you with this final thought to consider about your own organization's documentation today. Is your team's knowledge truly ready to be AI native, or is it still trapped in a black box, waiting to be hallucinated by the next LLM? Because as we've seen throughout this explainer, replacing open-ended AI guesswork with just 7 structured deterministic tools doesn't just fix a technical glitch. It changes absolutely everything about how your team operates, collaborates, and scales into the future.